Good morning.
Morning, Mary. Morning, Kate.
And good morning, Catherine
Good
Hey,
morning.
everyone.
and Mary Beth. Happy birthday.
Oh, yes. Happy birthday.
Do you know it was 10 years ago today that the O'Brien budget was done and that he cleared the balcony and there was that huge rally in front of the State House?
10
Wow.
years.
It was because it was my birthday, so I remember it.
Oh,
Oh,
think
Ah.
history will repeat itself.
Happy birthday.
No. I was in the balcony when he cleared it, so thank you, Tom.
hi, Sharon.
Hi, what's up?
Oh, not too- I just spent my morning going around delivering those rental assistance cards to my the local stores in my neighborhoods that have more multi-housing homes. And somebody gave them to me from the Housing Authority. And it was such a good feeling to be able to do that for people.
I'm sure.
Nice. Where is everybody?
Joe, how many people are in the hall?
Okay,
Let's look at the camera.
Yeah, and then can you unmute?
all right. You hear me?
Yes,
All
we
right.
can.
Thank you. As Chair of the House Finance Committee, I find that the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04 as extended. This public body is authorized to meet electronically. We have both a hybrid meeting, we both meeting electronically and in person. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously in this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibility by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom video webinar for the remote parts of the meeting, and we're also here present in Reps Hall. All members of the committee and the staff of state agencies with agenda items have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting through the platform, and the public has access to the contemporaneously watch and or listen to the meeting on Zoom or phone, following the directions and links provided in the House calendar at http://gencourt.nh.us/house/caljourn, CALJOURNS/calendars, CALENDARS/2021/H, uppercase H, uppercase C, space 8.pdf. Providing the public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public that the necessary information for accessing the meeting telephonically. Instructions have been provided in the House calendar. Providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please email lba_fiscal@leg.state.nh.us. D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also note that there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. The clerk will call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Ober,
I'm here in Reps Hall with a lovely group of people.
thank you. Representative Umberger,
Representative Umberger is in Reps Hall.
Representative Turcoff and Danielson,
Representative Turcott in Reps Hall.
Representative Thaburish,
Representative Tiberish in Reps Hall.
Representative Petrie is here in Reps Hall. Representative Emmerich,
I'm in Reps Hall.
Representative Earth,
Present in Reps Hall.
Representative Griffin,
Here in Reps Hall.
Representative Edwards,
Here in Reps Hall.
Representative Doucette for Bean,
Present, Repsol. President Repsol.
Representative Lynn,
Present in Reps Hall.
Representative Wallner,
Present in Reps Hall.
Representative Norgren,
Representative Nordman is in my dining room in Hanover, and there's nobody in the room.
thank you. Representative Bucco,
Yes, I'm present at my home in Conway and there's no one else in the house.
Representative Leishman,
Good morning, here in Reps Hall.
Representative Hatch,
I'm here. I'm present in Reps Hall with all my friends.
thank you. Representative Rogers,
I am in my apartment in Concord, alone except with my dog Romeo.
Mhm. Representative Walls,
Present in my home here in Bow, and I am alone here in this room. Thank you.
Representative Heath,
Good morning, Mary Heath, here in my home in Manchester, and I am home alone.
Representative Murray,
Good morning. Representative Murray is home in Newcastle, alone in my office.
thank you. Representative Weiler, you are here
I'm present in Reps Hall.
in Hall. Very good. Mr. Chairman, there are 21 people present. We have a quorum.
Thank you for all appearing. We will begin the agenda this morning by recognizing Representative Lynn for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I have a motion. It's labeled as 2021 1056H, and it deals with the subject of closed loop referral systems. I'd like to briefly speak to the motion if there's a second.
Okay,
I'd like to second that.
all right, we have a motion and a second, and as discussion, and Representative Lynn is recognized to discuss his amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday, I voted against the earlier proposal that dealt with this because I felt that there were some problems. The chief one among them for me was that I thought there was some inconsistency in the language of the motion, in that it didn't make clear whether undertakings or services that were to be provided pursuant to the existing $700,000 contract, but which might not yet have been arranged for, were to be prohibited under the earlier proposal or not. I think the intent was probably that they weren't to be, but it wasn't clear to me that the language would accomplish that. So working together with Representative Edwards, we came up with some alternative language that I think makes it clear that the department is entitled to carry out the full terms of the existing contract for $700,000, even if they haven't sort of committed the funds at the point where this amendment becomes law, if it does become law. But that there's to be no further contracts undertaken by the department until the Legislative Oversight Committee has an opportunity to review in particular, it's a comprehensive review, but in particular, they're going to be focused on the privacy implications of this, because I think it really is a significant concern. I think should be a significant concern to everyone that this is far more than simply the sharing of medical information between medical professionals who may be providing services to any individual. It goes well beyond that. And in my understanding is it's not even limited, at least potentially, is not even limited to Medicare or Medicaid recipients, rather. It could apply really to anyone who happens to get to provide information to a food service provider or any other kind of non-medical situation. And I think that's an area of potential concern that really ought to be looked at by the legislature before this continues. So I think that's what this amendment accomplished.
Thank you, Representative Lynn. Are there any questions? Representative Wallner.
Now is it on? Yeah, it is on today. Thank you. Isn't the amendment that you've introduced today that's before us, isn't this the subject of a bill that was in the Health and Human Service Committee? And I believe, I haven't seen the calendar, of course, but I believe it may be on the calendar and being reported out next week at our session. So isn't this the same subject matter that was dealt with in Health and Human Services?
I'm gonna defer to Representative Edwards on that.
Thank you, Representative Lynn, and thank you, Representative Wallner, for the question. Although similar, this is not substantively the same thing as House Bill 601, and even if it were, this would be an example, I think, of a belts and suspenders strategy of making sure that something this important does find its way into law. So, well, redundant or not, which I don't think it is at all, it's still nevertheless a good amendment, and I'll support it.
Representative Rogers for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After the other day, I in fact went to the Health and Human Services Committee and pulled a file on the bill that this is similar to, and looked at not only the bill, but the amendments that were there. And I know Representative Edwards, you testified on the bill and talked about it at that hearing. And this is substantially similar to a number of the amendments that were voted on, and talks about the closed system, loop referral system in the committee. They did in fact take a vote, and it is on the calendar. It was quite a large majority vote that they, I believe it was 17 or 14 to 5, actually, the vote to ITL it. And the concerns were about, they asked someone in the Attorney General's office about constitutional questions, and he expressed some concerns that needed to be looked at. So I'm concerned that what we're doing is taking, quote, another bite at the apple for a bill that, while people did share concerns, they had other concerns with. You had expressed that you wanted the Senate to get the House's position. And it appears to me like they're getting a position, and we're going to be offering them yet another position to look at. So if they're getting both sides of a position, it's similar to getting nothing. So again, I expressed concerns about why we're taking what a policy committee that dealt with this at length took a position on, and we're doing the bill, which again is policy, and we're supposed to look at the financial aspects of it, not the policy, especially when the policy committee has looked at it. And we're doing another bite at the apple and changing the policy that the policy committee came up with. I don't think that that's our place, but especially not in the last minute when everything else is done without having the proper time for all of us to consider it. I understand you've considered it for quite a while. You said the other day that Representative Erf had also considered it for quite a while. And both of you are very intelligent. You understand this policy well, but I think that for the whole committee to vote on it with a very limited time is not the way we should be doing business. So I would suggest that we hold this and let it be dealt with by the policy committee that will in fact have it in the calendar at the same session, not maybe the same session, but the same group of days that the Health and Human Services will have it on the calendar. I guess I don't see why we're going to overturn everything.
All right, I've got a lousy speaker here that I can't understand most of what you say, but was there a question, Representative Jess Edwards? Did you understand the question?
Well, I understood Representative Rogers in summary to not agree with having the Finance Committee set this as policy when she thinks there's a parallel path and a more appropriate path in the Policy Committee. which I think is not an unfair observation, but I would just want to point out from my own perspective that what this does is it reaffirms what the Health and Human Services Oversight Committee can do already, which is to take a look at activities in the department and determine if the department is using its best efforts to achieve efficiency and effectiveness in their operations. Well, what this does a little bit more, though, is it clarifies that the HHS oversight has a function in this case to review and to report on whether or not, from the Oversight Committee's perspective, privacy rules and regulations are being followed to the extent that we believe that the New Hampshire Constitution on Privacy expects us to. It's established a very high standard that there's concern that not all departments, not all legislators have fully embraced at this point, and is worth a careful examination. Thank you.
Representative Rogers, did you have further?
I guess I'm just concerned that we turn it over to the legislative oversight or the Health Oversight Committee. It's kind of like turning something over to fiscal, and we've all here expressed concern before that we let a small group of legislators do what 400 should be doing. And again, I'm sorry if my speaker's not working well, but again, I think that we want to have more legislators make decisions rather than less. And if this is the precedent we want to set about doing policy, what's to stop us from the future, each bringing in a bill that we don't like the way the policy committees decided, and bringing it in at the last minute and say, well, I like this bill, they decided ITL, so let's redo it in the budget, to my way of thinking. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further discussion? Representative Wallner, then Representative Hatch.
Thank you, Representative Weiler. I was wondering if I could ask the sponsor of the amendment a question. Did you give consideration to taking this amendment to the floor and amending 601 as it comes onto the floor?
If that's addressed to me, I did not. And to be honest with you, I have to say candidly, I'm still sort of feeling my way around the legislative procedure. So I hadn't.
I understand that.
I hadn't frankly thought of that. So this was suggested as the way to do this. It seemed to me to be an appropriate way to do this. And I guess, one other point I would make just in response to what your question is, as I think that this amendment merely tells the Department of Health and Human Services, don't make any further contracts regarding this other than the one that's existing until the Legislative Oversight Committee makes its recommendations. I don't read this as saying, and I don't think it does say, that once that's happened, they are prohibited from making contracts. Presumably, if the Legislative Oversight Committee says, look, there's all these terrible things you really ought to make, and we recommend you do this, this, and this, presumably, assuming those recommendations are reasonable, the department will follow them. But I suppose if they didn't, then in the next session, we could, enact legislation. But this doesn't say they can't do that after we've made the Oversight Committee has made its recommendations. So I don't know exactly what there was a reference made to some, the Attorney General having some constitutional question. I don't quite understand what that could be, given the way that I think this would operate.
Thank you.
Representative Hatch for a question. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. The question before us is the adoption of Amendment 1056H. Excuse me. If you're in favor, you'll say yes. If you're opposed, you'll say no. The clerk will call the roll to adopt the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Ober,
Yes.
Representative Umberger,
Yes.
Representative Turcott,
Representative Turcott, yes.
Representative Burrish,
Yes.
Representative Petrie votes yes. Representative Emmerich,
Yes.
Representative Uriff,
Yes.
Representative Griffin,
Yes.
Representative Edwards,
Yes.
Representative Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Lynn,
Yes.
Representative Wallner,
No.
Representative Norgren,
No,
Representative Bucco,
No,
Representative Leishman,
No.
Representative Hatch,
No.
Representative Rogers,
No,
Representative Walls,
No,
Representative Heath,
Heath votes no.
Representative Murray,
Murray votes no.
and Representative Weiler.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 12-9 in favor of the motion.
And the motion is adopted. We have, everybody's in the hall is seated at a seat, and those of you on Zoom have gotten the packet on emails that we will next be briefed on. I will call upon the Legislative Budget Assistant, Michael Kane, to brief us next. Mr. Kane.
Sure. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Michael Kane. I'm the Legislative Budget Assistant. You've all done a great job getting to this point. I know it hasn't been easy in the new environment, but we really do appreciate all the effort you've put in, as well as the patience you've had and support for our staff. So I'm going to ask Mickey, who's monitoring this Zoom webinar, to share the General Education Trust Fund surplus statement, page 1, please.
It was up there, then it went away.
I think that was the Highway Fund one. Mickey was getting excited. So there we go. Thanks, Mick. And so before you, what you'll see is the combined General Education Trust Fund surplus statement. It is 8 pages. I will not go through all 8 pages. I know you've been through a lot of documents. This is the document that we use during the process to ensure that the House is offering a balanced budget plan. Including in this plan is all the appropriations in the large document of House Bill 1, any appropriations that are included in House Bill 2, as well as any revenue changes included in House Bill 2, and in addition, any estimated lapse or the estimated lapse of unexpended appropriations. So in total, when you received the budget back on February 11th from the governor, the revenue picture was a little different at the time in 21. The governor's first revenue estimates assumed that 21 would have a large lapse, about $150.5 million. But that would not, the revenues were also going to be under plan as well. In addition, a negative balance of $54.4 million was carried forward from FY20. And so a draw on the rainy day fund was estimated at that time by the governor of about $29.9 million. So as you know, we're currently in fiscal year 21 and everything is moving. We're in March. We have 3 months left in the fiscal year. So it will end how it ends. We'll continue to monitor revenue. The House Finance Committee also began CAFR balance beginning forward of a negative 54,407. Estimated revenues, the first line, the 2,725.7 are the revenue estimates that were adopted by the House Ways and Means Committee in March, I think right around March 18th. As you remember, at the end of February, the House Ways and Means Committee presented and passed and tabled House Resolution 11, which was their first crack at the revenue estimates. Based on further discussions with Department of Revenue Administration, and based on discussions with the governor's office and his discussions with the agencies, the revenue estimates did increase. And so you'll remember yesterday that the committee did adopt, or 2 days ago on Monday, the committee did adopt the new revenue estimates of the 2.725.7, which is the combined General Education Trust Fund. Both the governor and the House have a $62.5 million revenue adjustment. And just to remind you what that was is, if you remember a couple budgets ago, that there was some one-time education aid for free and reduced lunch and fiscal capacity disparity aid. How that was funded is they restricted the balance of the Education Trust Fund at the end of 19 and put into a special, for lack of a better term, a special account to be held aside for funds provided to the cities and towns or to the school districts in FY21. And so that is more just an adjustment on this statement. Total revenues for the House, $2.788.2 million, which is over what the governor's original estimates are, but a little more in line with where revised estimates that the governor provided to the committee earlier in the month. What's deducted from that is the beginning balance, obviously, of 54.4, but then the budget appropriations. Now, the budget appropriations on line 9, these are the state totals for the General and Education Trust Fund that you'll find on the last page of House Bill 1, the large 700+ page document. And then appropriation adjustments, which you will see on Schedule 2 of about $76.206 million. And not to, I won't move over to there, but 62.5 of that, as we talked before, is relative to that one-time free and reduced lunch and fiscal capacity disparity aid, which was offset by that $62.5 million. The other $11+ million is related to your statutory appropriations, your fiscal committee appropriations, et cetera. In addition, it's a little higher than when the governor came in because the Division 2, as you remember, had proposed, I think was about $1.9 million in 21 for kindergarten for those cities and towns that have full day kindergarten. There was a lag in the timing of the ADM. And so you can see that's a little higher than where the governor was. Lapse stayed the same, $150.5 million, which is a high lapse historically, but something that the governor's office and the agencies do believe they'll be able to make this time around. There was a hiring freeze, as you remember, for almost a complete year. There's also additional federal matching funds for HHS under the Medicaid program, so that this lapse estimate will hit 150.5. What that ends up doing is a current year balance of about 66.47 million. Deduct from that the $54.4 million of the beginning balance, and it's a positive balance for a combined general and education trust fund of 12.066. And I just want to point out, if Mickey, if you wouldn't mind flipping to the next page. Why is there what does the general fund look like? You can see down on line 17 that although in total there is a positive balance in the combined general education trust fund, almost 19 million of that is in the education trust fund. And so as a result, if you look purely at the general funds, there is a negative balance of about $7.8 million. Again, because of the 51.2 came forward to the general fund. Current year balance of 43.3. So it does still result in a shortfall in this point in time of about $7.8 million. Based on statute, if the state does have an operating budget deficit in the general fund and your estimated revenues are below the projected biennial plan, then an automatic draw on the rainy day fund would occur. And basically what would happen is Department of Administrative Services would come before fiscal committee and request a draw on that rainy day fund. We are several months away from that. This is, again, if everything ended today, which we know it won't, there would be a small draw of about $7.8 million on the rainy day fund. But as we continue through the budget, throughout the process and watch the revenues in the Senate, as well as the committee of conference, that number is going to change. And then in addition, we'll be paying attention to how our current revenues are comparing versus plan to see that that second trigger in the rainy day fund is met, that revenues are actually under plan, because that's the only way that that automatic draw on the rainy day fund would occur. And Mickey, if you wouldn't mind going back to page 1. Thank you. And so that's, you'll see right there, the 7.8 million from the rainy day fund. Balance after transfers, 19,896. That is all in the education trust fund. You'll see that number carry forward on row 1 in House Finance because the education trust fund is non-lapsing. using the revenues from the Ways and Means revised estimates, as well as revenue adjustments from the various changes to the BET rates, the BET thresholds, the BPT rate reduction that was provided and voted on Monday, and the various other revenue changes. The net revenues, or the total revenues, came out to almost about $2.75 billion between the General and Education Trust Fund. And deduct from that your budget appropriations. So again, General and Education Trust Fund budget appropriations of about $2.753 billion. Appropriation adjustments of about 19.815, which you will see on, we won't flip to page 3, but you will see on your hard copy and online. On page 4, you do begin to see where those various adjustments are, and I have separated them out by division, just so each division can, ensure that they were all accounted for. Lapse, you'll see that the lapse, when the governor had proposed, was $67 million. You'll see the House Finance moved up to 71, and that's because of an action taken in Division 3, which, based on discussions with Health and Human Services, they did make a motion to increase the statewide lapse by $4 million in 22, and then you can see another $6.2 million in 23. So for 22, the current year ending balance, about $47.2 million. Cumulative ending balance, after adding in the balance forward from the Education Trust Fund, will bring that to $67.1 million at the end of fiscal year 22, based on the House's budget proposal, House Finance Committee's budget proposal. It's the first year in the biennium, automatically carries forward. Any negative or positive automatically carries forward into the next fiscal year. So you can see in the beginning balance on row 1 on the final column of $67.1 million. Revenues, you can see the revised estimates on row 4, the $2.8 billion, and then total revenue adjustments of about $118 million. And this is when a lot of the tax changes proposed by House Finance will take effect, such as your business tax changes, and then the large one being your credit carry forward, the BET amendment that was adopted, which does, instead of allowing businesses to carry forward all of their previously overpaid taxes, they do want to work that down over several years. The governor had proposed a similar type of reduction, but the House Ways and Means Committee had actually adjusted that, and the House Finance Committee adopted that amendment. So your total revenues for General Education Trust Fund, about $2.68 billion, and then your budgeted appropriations. Total budget appropriations of about $2.8 billion in House Bill 1. Appropriation adjustments is a $17.9 million, almost $18 million of positive adjustments, which offset those appropriations up top. And a majority of that has to do with the Division 3 action relative to the back of budget reductions that you remember discussing on Monday. Less the lapse, the $98.2 million, again, based on a Division 3 action that moved that $6.2 million above where the governor had come in. And so that the current year balance of negative 32.2, offset by the positive balance of the 67.1, leaves a balance of $34.9 million at the end of the biennium. That is all in the general fund. One thing I should have mentioned, the large revenue adjustment up top of the 118 has to do with, you remember, the statewide education property tax being reduced in 23 by 100 million. So that's a large majority of that. So what also resulted is that the general fund, since the Education Trust Fund revenue went down, the general fund did have to transfer about $65 million into the Education Trust Fund to keep it whole and to ensure that those the reduction in statewide property tax did not impact the grants to the cities and towns, or sorry, to the school districts. And so the cumulative ending balance is all in the general fund, about $34.9 million, and no suspension of the rainy day fund statute. Based on statute, any balance remaining at the end of the biennium would be transferred to the rainy day fund. So that's why in this budget plan from House Finance that was presented, the rainy day fund balance at the end of the next biennium is estimated at about $142.6 million. And so that was kind of a long way getting to that the budget is a balanced budget plan in the General and Education Trust Fund. And we did also provide a surplus statement for the Highway Fund and the Fish and Game Fund, which also show that those two funds are also balanced. So I can answer any questions that anyone has.
Any questions from the committee for the LBA? You must have done a great job. I don't see any questions.
Thank you. And so I will have Mickey unshare this screen. And right now we're going to go to Amendment 2021-1045H. That is the large amendment on House Bill 1. And I just ask if Mickey, if you could share that screen. It may take a little bit to bring up because it is a large document. Okay. And I won't, I definitely won't go over every single one of these pages, but these are the individual appropriations that the divisions have worked on since March or since February, worked with your agencies and your divisions to go through and to make all the various adjustments. They were presented by the divisions in a detailed change sheet. All those amendments were then put into the budget system by our analysts to adjust the actual dollar amounts by class line. That results in this cumulative amendment of 1045H, which includes all the appropriations. And then beginning on page 717 of the document, you don't have to scroll down, Mickey, is the sections, including the back of the budget reductions, the revenue estimates, et cetera. So this 2021-1045H is the cumulative amendment for House Bill 1 based on the adopted recommendations for the division on Monday. And so if you typically you'll take a roll call on 1045H, and then I will I'll move over to House Bill 2 after that vote has been taken.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion on accepting Amendment 1045H to HB1.
So moved.
So move. Second.
All righty. Hold up your hand if you made the motion. Was it Representative Umberger and Representative Ober seconds? All right, the other way around. Ober and then Umberger. And further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll on the adoption of Amendment 1045H.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Ober,
Yes.
Representative Umberger,
Yes.
Representative Turcott,
Yes.
Representative Burridge,
Yes.
Representative Petrie votes yes. Representative Tracy,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Representative Emmerich, geez. Brain's gone to hell. Representative Earth,
Yes.
Representative Griffin,
Yes.
Representative Edwards,
Yes.
Representative Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Lynn,
Yes.
Representative Wallner,
No.
Representative Norgren, Representative Norgren,
No, sorry.
not a problem. Representative Bucco,
No.
Representative Leishman,
No.
Representative Hatch,
No.
Representative Rogers,
No,
Representative Walls,
No,
Representative Heath,
Heath votes no.
Representative Murray,
no,
Representative Weiler.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 12-9 in the affirmative.
And we have adopted HB1 Amendment 1045H. Thank you. Further from the LBA, Mr. King.
Thank you. The next amendment is 2021-1050H. This is the amendment to House Bill 2 based on the actions on Monday. I'll have Mickey share that screen with you in just a moment. Thank you.
Yes, Representative Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious, as we go into review of HB2, if you could explain to us how we will be voting today and whether or not our vote can incorporate Representative Lynn's earlier amendment, 1056H. I'm just curious what the procedure here is to get it included, since it wasn't there until this morning.
Mr. Kane, did you understand the question?
Yes, so the first vote you'll take is on 10050H. You've already taken a vote on 10056H. And then after you do take the vote on 10050H, you would take a motion to ought to pass as amended by both amendments on House Bill 2 and take a roll call on that as well. So you'll take one roll call. You've already taken one on 1056. We'll ask you to take one on 1050. And then after you make that, we'll ask you to take one final roll call on House Bill 2 on House Bill 2 ought to pass as amended by both 1050H and 1056H. What we will then do is work with Legislative Services, add basically 1056 would be added to the end of this document, so the amendment number will change, and that's what will be printed in the calendar for all the members.
Thank you very much for that explanation. I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything further on questions or discussions on HB2?
No,
Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
So
Amendment
moved.
1050 HB2.
Second.
Motion by Representative Ober, second by Representative Umberger to adopt Amendment 1050H on HB2. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll. If you're in favor of adopting that amendment, you'll say aye, yes. If you're opposed, you'll say no. Clerk will call the roll on Amendment 1050H to HB2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Ober,
Yes.
Representative Umberger,
Yes.
Representative Turcott,
Yes.
Representative Thaboris,
Yes.
Representative Petrie votes yes. Representative Emmerich,
Yes.
Representative Uriff,
Yes.
Representative Griffin,
Yes.
Representative Edwards,
Yes.
Representative Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Lynn,
Yes.
Representative Wallner,
No.
Representative Norgren,
No,
Representative Bucco,
No.
Representative Leishman,
No.
Representative Hatch,
No.
Representative Rogers,
No,
Representative Walls,
No,
Representative Heath,
Heath votes no.
Representative Murray,
no,
and Representative Weiler.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 12-9 in the affirmative.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Ober.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to adopt HB2 as amended.
Motion by Representative Ober to adopt HB2 as amended by, I assume, 1056H,
Yes, sir.
In 1050H.
1056H, and second by Representative Emmerich to adopt the motion to amend HB2 by that amendment, 1056H,
As well as 1050H.
as well as 1050H. So we've already adopted 1050H, we've adopted 1056H as a committee.
Correct.
Now amended.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay. Amended. Any further discussion?
Just to be clear, where are we Is this the amendment?
So this is, oh, sorry, if I just may, this is, so usually if we're in person, you can do a roll, by hands or voice vote, but since we are remote, everything needs a roll call. So this final motion by Representative Overs to House Bill 2 ought to pass as amended by amendments 1050H and 1056H. And so this will be the final vote on House Bill 2. We'll do a similar one-on-one after this.
You're saying we have to vote.
Yes, members, my staff
Have a
ran in
vote
and
on ought to pass, and then
yeah, on House Bill 1 after this. So I think for this one, just for House Bill 2, just ought to pass as amended by 1050H and 1056H. And after this vote, I'll then, we can then entertain the motion, or the committee can entertain the motion on House Bill 1 as amended.
Very good.
Sure.
So this is a motion to add amendment 1056H to HB2. Clerk will call the roll. Is the situation clear? Is any further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll to adopt amendment 1056H into HB2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Ober,
Yes.
Representative Umberger,
Yes.
Representative Turcott,
Yes.
Representative Thaburge,
Yes.
Representative Petrie votes yes. Representative Emmerich.
Yes.
I'm sorry. That was a yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Representative Uriff,
Yes.
Representative Griffin,
Yes.
Representative Edwards,
Yes.
Representative Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Lynn,
Yes.
Representative Wallner,
No.
Representative Norgren,
No,
Representative Bucco,
No.
Representative Leishman,
No.
Representative Hatch,
No.
Representative Rogers,
No,
Representative Walls,
No,
Representative Heath,
Heath votes no.
Representative Murray,
no,
Representative Weiler.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 12-9 in the affirmative.
All right, we have voted to add amendment 1056 to HB2. We will now entertain a motion to adopt HB2 as amended. I'll entertain a motion.
Is that what we just did?
No, we added an amendment. Now we got to vote on.
No, the motion was to amend HB2 with the other amendment. We did that.
Yes, you should be all set, Representative Weiler. We now know that House Bill 2 ought to pass as amended by 1050H and 1056H. And so we will work with OLS to get that adopted. So all your motions on House Bill 2 are sufficient. It does bring one last motion on House Bill 1 because the committee has already adopted 1045H. We would just ask that the committee take a vote on House Bill 1 ought to pass as amended.
So moved.
Okay, motion to pass, that was HB1, right? As
Yes.
amended?
Yes. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Motion, and I see the motion from Representative Ober, seconded by Representative Emmerich or Umberger, take your pick. And is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, who seconded that motion?
I guess we'll say Emmerich.
Oh, I thought, okay, so I had, so did you say Emmerich
Yes.
made the motion?
No, Ober made the motion, Emmerich seconds.
Okay, Emmerich second, okay, thank you. All right. All right, this is on HB1 as amended.
Yes.
All right, Representative Ober,
Yes.
Representative Umberger,
Yes.
Representative Turcott,
Yes.
Representative Thaburge,
Yes.
Representative Petrie votes yes. Representative Emmerich,
Yes.
Representative Uriff,
Yes.
Representative Griffin,
Yes.
Representative Edwards,
Yes.
Representative Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Lynn,
Yes.
Representative Wallner,
No.
Representative Norgren,
No,
thank you. Representative Bucco,
No.
Representative Leishman,
No.
Representative Hatch,
No.
Representative Rogers,
No,
Representative Walls,
No,
Representative Heath,
Heath votes no.
Representative Murray,
no,
Representative Weiler.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 12-9 in the affirmative.
we have adopted HB1 as amended. Any further business, Mr. Kane?
No.
Members of the committee and members
Mr.
of.
Chairman, could
Representative
I ask
Ober.
Mr. Kane a question?
Representative Ober has a question for you, Mr. Kane.
Mr. Kane, do we normally make a motion to allow LBA to adjust any errata that they find that we haven't found? And should we do that?
We don't need it anymore. We did receive it on Monday. And we made any technical changes to usually just references or make sure that the effective dates are all set. Right now, we're just going to pass this off to Legislative Services. We're not going to make any more changes than what have been presented to you, but thank you for asking.
Thank you. Anything further from the committee? Okay, thank you all for your attendance. I guess we can adjourn without a roll call vote from what we've done in the past.
Yes.
The objection to adjourning. We are adjourned. I will get together with the division chairs right after this to discuss the briefing for next week. Thank you all for coming.